So, every leader loves the easy conversations. They love giving praise, celebrating wins, laughing with the team. But leadership isn't measured by how well you handle the good days. Leadership is measured by how you handle the uncomfortable ones. And in this episode, we are talking about one of the most overlooked leadership fundamentals: having difficult conversations. Whether you are correcting poor performance, addressing attendance, dealing with conflict, or holding someone accountable, avoiding these conversations doesn't make you a kind leader. It usually makes things worse. We're going to discuss why new leaders often avoid confrontation, how fear can damage a team, and practical ways to approach difficult conversations with confidence, respect, and honesty. Because being a better leader doesn't mean avoiding hard conversations. It means learning how to have them the right way. So I am so happy that you are here joining me. If you've been following along, you know this podcast is about leadership, not titles, not power, not authority, but real leadership. Leadership that serves people, leadership that develops people, leadership that leaves people better than you found them. Conversations is one that every single leader will face, no matter what industry you are in. Whether you manage 2 people or 200, whether you are in public works, environmental services, healthcare, retail, construction, manufacturing, or corporate America, eventually you are going to have to sit across from someone and have a conversation that neither one of you want to have. And here's the truth. The sooner you learn how to have difficult conversations, the better leader you will become. I'm going to be honest. Most people do not enjoy confrontation. Some leaders avoid it because they don't know what to say. They don't want to hurt someone's feelings. Others avoid it because they're afraid of being disliked. Some simply just don't know how to have difficult conversations. But leadership isn't about choosing comfort. It is about choosing responsibility. Every difficult conversation you avoid today usually becomes a bigger problem tomorrow. I did not like to have difficult conversations either, if we are being honest. I always felt like maybe I wasn't going to use the correct words or verbiage or tone. I didn't want the employee to be able to gain control of the conversation. And what would happen if they did? How would I take back control of the conversation? So I mentored with a lot of great leaders in my career to help me through this process so that I could have a better understanding how to do it effectively, what to say, what not to say, what type of tone to use. Avoiding the conversation hurts everyone. When we avoid these types of conversations, we avoid accountability. The employee thinks their behavior is acceptable. And then other employees get upset because why is that employee allowed to act or behave that way or get away with things like that, but we are not? And again, that goes back to consistency and that your team is always watching you. And I'm telling you, the team notices. There is nothing that they do not notice. And then the morale will begin to suffer. High performers become frustrated. The standards begin to slip. And suddenly the issue isn't just one employee anymore. Now it is your leadership. Difficult doesn't mean disrespectful. One of the biggest misconceptions I see is that difficult conversations have to be aggressive. They don't. That is not true. You can be firm without being rude. You can be direct without embarrassing someone. And you can hold someone accountable while still treating them with dignity. Those things are not mutually exclusive. In fact, that's exactly what good leadership looks like. Prepare yourself before you start to speak. Never walk into a difficult conversation without being prepared. And to never walk into a difficult conversation driven by your emotions. You walk in prepared, you know the facts, you know the expectations, you know the policy, you know what outcome you are hoping to achieve, and then ask yourself, what behavior needs to change? Not, what do I think about this person? This person is such a pain in the neck. No, that's not how we go into these conversations. That is not the mindset that we want to have. We want to attack the issue, never attack the individual. And a lot of times it's not even that we dislike the individual, we dislike the behavior that they are showing. That is why we have to correct it. This was something I had to learn. Again, I had to learn this early on. As leaders, we sometimes think we're supposed to do all of the talking, but we are not. Ask questions. Give people the opportunity to explain. Sometimes there's information that you are unaware of. Sometimes there is not. Either way, people deserve the opportunity to be heard. And listening doesn't mean lowering expectations. It means showing respect. And when I say listening, I mean to actively listen. We have to turn on our listening ears. We are not listening to answer them. We are listening to understand and to figure out a solution. We have to learn to listen. And one of the fastest ways to lose credibility is inconsistency. If one employee gets corrected, but another gets a pass for doing the exact same thing, you have just created distrust. People don't expect perfection, they expect fairness. And consistency builds trust. And another mistake that new leaders often make is waiting too long. They let the little things slide, they ignore the warning signs, and then one day they explode. Now, the employee is completely confused because what should have been 5 small conversations became one emotional confrontation. Address issues early. They're easier to solve then. Your goal here is not to win. The goal isn't to prove you are right. The goal here is improvement. A successful, difficult conversation ends with clarity. The employee knows what happened. They know why it matters. They know what is expected moving forward. That, my friends, is leadership. Remember what it felt like? Most of us were not born leaders. Someone corrected us. Someone coached us. Someone believed in us enough to tell us the truth. That's what you are doing now. that torch has been handed to you. It is now your turn to offer the same thing to your employees, to your frontline team. You're helping someone become better, not because you're trying to tear them down, but because you are trying to build them up. So listen, if you are a new supervisor, I want you to hear this. Those difficult conversations never become easy, but they do become easier. You learn, you grow, and you will become more confident. And eventually, you realize those conversations are one of the greatest ways that you will ever be able to serve your people. Because leadership isn't about avoiding uncomfortable moments. It's about walking through them with integrity. And I want you to practice. Practice having difficult conversations with another one of your peers, with another supervisor. Even practice with your managers. I'm sure several of you have operation managers. You even have general managers. Listen, that is part of their job. Part of their job is to help coach and build their leadership team. So if you are struggling somewhere, and difficult conversations is one of the biggest struggles in leadership. And if you are struggling with that, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to go to your OM or your GM and say, hey, do you mind doing a mock difficult conversation with me? Let's role play. Have your facts, have everything prepared. Remember, you're walking in prepared. You have all of your ducks in a row. I'll give you an example. I had a driver who had multiple missed stops in a month. And when I say multiple, I mean it was excessive. More so than the entire frontline team put together. This person was having missed pickups. And I could not get a handle on it. I am trying to root cause this situation. I had to involve my OM because I'm like, listen, I'm not, am I missing something here? And he said, well, what have you come up with? And I said, it looks like he's just not going to these stops. He's checking them off that he's been there. But when I go on to Samsara, when I go on here to our GPS system, he's not there. When I check the tablet, he says he was there, but the GPS on the tablet is showing that he was never in any type of proximity of these stops. He said, well, dig further. Keep digging. Okay, fine. Let's continue down this rabbit hole. So as I'm root causing this situation, the more I find, the more aggravated I get. So now my emotions are starting to get involved with this. And I am ready to just blow my lid on this employee. Because this is 100% unacceptable behavior. I can't even believe that you have the audacity to do this. And I even told my OM, like, I am ready to just lose it. Like, I am going to go through the roof if this is true. No, you're not. You're going to take a deep breath. You're going to prepare yourself. You're going to sit on it for 24, 48 hours. Allow your emotions to subside. And then you're going to address it head on. That's exactly what I had to do. I had to take a deep breath. And when I had all of my facts, I had figured out how he was doing it. I had figured out what he was doing. I started doing screenshots. I started documenting everything. I had everything lined up in a folder, and I let him know because I never have these conversations in the morning. Wait until the afternoon. You are putting their lives at risk if you have these conversations in the morning with these employees. because now all day they are going to be thinking about this conversation. They are going to be thinking and pondering on it throughout the day. And listen, folks, this is when accidents happen. Safety comes first, conversation second. Always safety, conversation second. So never do this to them in the first thing in the morning. Wait until they're finished their route, they're finished their task, and then pull them in the office and have the conversation. Even if you have to have your OM, your GM with you, another supervisor sit in, do it. Listen, this was the best learning experience for me when it came to difficult conversations, because I waited a couple days. I allowed my emotions to subside. So now it's not an emotional conversation. We are going to state the facts, and it is going to be a factual conversation, and I'm going to state my expectations. There is going to be corrective action involved with this, or worse, termination. But first, let's try and coach the problem. So I bring the employee in. I have everything lined up, all my papers in the folder, ready to go. Every duck is in a row. And I sit down and I said, so I know that we had a conversation in the past about some missed pickups, and I wanted to kind of revisit that area because I see that it's still trending. Oh, well, they're lying. I don't know why they would say that. And he went on and on and on with the excuses. And I said, well, that's interesting, because I want to show you a couple of things. And I started pulling out the paperwork from my folder, the screenshots, the evidence. And his face just drops, because he knows that he's been caught red-handed. 100%. There's no way out of it. You can't talk your way out of this. I have the facts in front of us. Now, what do you have to say for yourself? I mean, this is falsifying documentation. This is unacceptable. 100% unacceptable behavior. And this is not going to go unpunished. There is going to be corrective action to this. And it's going to have to be sent up to HR for them to review it. He had no answers for himself. None. He couldn't even continue the conversation. When he first walked in there, he thought he was in control. He was going to tell me, he was going to tell us, until I was something he wasn't prepared. Listen, that was the best learning experience of having difficult conversations I could have ever asked for in my career. So, if you have advice on difficult conversations, we would love to hear it. Email me. I'll talk about it again on another episode. I would love to hear what you have to say. You can email me at justagirltalkingtrash. Talking, TALKIN. There is no G. Justagirltalkingtrash at gmail.com. Thank you for joining me for another episode. Until next time, lead with encourage, lead with consistency, lead with compassion, and remember, the conversations you're avoiding today might be the ones your team needs the most. I will see you on our next episode. But before you leave today's episode, I want you to ask yourself this. Are you ready? Is there a conversation that I have been avoiding? Am I correcting behavior early, or am I waiting until I'm frustrated? Am I holding everyone to the same standard? Do my employees leave difficult conversations with clarity? And the last one, am I developing people, or simply disciplining them? Growth begins with one honest conversation, and sometimes that conversation starts with us. So until next time, You are listening to Just a Girl Talking Trash.